My good friend Ann Coulter joins us now to tell us why. She has some theories, I think, on why the media is doing such a horrible job of covering the Las Vegas shooting. Ann, a bang-up column. I read it earlier today, reread it tonight, and you're right. The media can put Matt Lauer on a jet and fly him all the way to Las Vegas, but they can't seem to ask some very simple questions about what actually happened last Sunday night.
Yes, they're terrified the narrative will change. They found the motive. He's white. That's all we need to know. He's a white male. Don't give us any other information. You must avoid doing any investigations. But, meanwhile, this is how conspiracy theories develop. They won't tell us why. Who was that woman screaming, "You're all going to die," 45 minutes before the shooting started? They won't tell us about the girlfriend. They won't tell us why he's wired $100,000 or why he did not wire $100,000 to the Philippines recently. And then they sit back and say, "Oh, well, these conspiracy theories." Well, no, okay, maybe it's just a crazy guy. And maybe it was a crazy woman screaming, "You're all going to die." It probably was. But if you're not going to have the slightest interest in finding out, I mean, the one thing I'm sure of is that the media does not want to know anything. They do not want the narrative to change.
No, they don't. And in fact, that very quick claim of responsibility by the Islamic State on Monday morning and the exceedingly quick refutation from the FBI left a lot of us wondering, well, hold on. The ISIS says it was them, and it came from a source that I guess has been wrong once and right the rest of the time. How did the FBI so quickly determine it wasn't ISIS, and why did they push that out so quickly? Maybe it wasn't, and I want to know what actually happened. But you're right. Immediately became all these memes like America's white man problem and how America silently accepted the rage of white men. I've even had callers to the show who said, well, most serial killers, most of these killers are white.
Nope.
And you're right. You list them all off. It's not true.
No, it isn't true for mass killers or serial killers, but the media just go through history and show us only the pictures of the white mass killers. But I mean, just of the ones I think listed by U.S. News just this week, the last 10 biggest mass killings, I don't know, in the last whatever number of years, 4 of the 10 were committed by immigrants, or the child of an immigrant. And when it was the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Pulse nightclub, Cho at University or Virginia Tech, I guess it was, San Bernardino, and Fort Hood. So I mean, immigrants aren't 40% of the country. They're definitely punching above their weight, and that's just in terms of immigrants, not even specifically Muslims.
But what do you think it is that they think they're going to find out about this? I mean, I wonder myself if we're ever going to know, because this guy was all over the place. I mean, yes, he was on Valium, but usually Valium is to prescribe, In fact, I had an interesting theory from our friend John Lott, who said maybe since he's been planning this apparently for months, maybe many, many months, maybe a year or more, maybe he started taking the Valium to control his anxiety as he planned this thing. Maybe that's why he went to the doctor.
That is interesting, but wouldn't you like to know?
Yeah, I'd like to know.
I mean, it seems unlikely that anyone else was involved, largely because you usually don't get 2 psychopaths. But did anybody else go into his room? We checked in last Thursday. I do love that it's the British press that got the photos of the room.
Yep.
I mean, I also salute the police chief of Las Vegas for his contempt for the press, saying they're going to find out who did it. But wow, if you want to know what's going on in America, you really got to check the British press.
No, the Daily Mail and others have been great, but you're right. The 100,000 that he wired to the Philippines, we may not know everything about it because maybe it was wired to her parents, the girlfriend's parents. Maybe it was wired in her name. Maybe it had nothing to do with it.
But why won't they tell us?
I know. Why won't they tell us what they know? And by the way, Ann, over the last half dozen years or so, there's been a real difference. Some law enforcement agencies have figured out, and I think this is the answer. Let's go out and tell everybody as much as we possibly can, as soon as we can, as often as we have to. And it usually ends up being better when they hold all the details back. Well, I'm sorry, that's under investigation. We can't tell you. And I get that answer all the time when I call law enforcement. And I think, you guys could save yourself a lot of the crazy conspiracy theories and the other, trips down, one rabbit hole or another if you just tell us what you know. The guy is dead. There's not going to be a criminal case. And you telling us things is not going to change the facts you find on the ground, like who was in the hallway, and how,
That's a really good point. Why do they have to keep all this secret? Well, only if they think there were other conspirators who got away, I guess. And I don't really blame thus far, and maybe I should be, but law enforcement, other than the immediate announcement this was not terrorism, but I do blame the press. I mean, they're not even asking the questions. They're not even raising this, and we're waiting to talk to the girlfriend who lived with him for the past 2 years to find out what she knew, how he changed his behavior. Had they broken up? Why wasn't she with him? Why didn't he go to the Philippines with her? Who were his friends? How many people knew about all the guns he was collecting? Can't we find out any of this?
Well, and I don't know that I necessarily trust her either. With 2 data points, she apparently said to the FBI, communicated that she had said he was always the perfect gentleman and just a very nice guy. And then you hear, but we had already heard a day earlier that when he went to the Starbucks, he didn't mind upbraiding her in public, and really treating her in a very lousy way, at least on enough occasions to be memorable to the Starbucks employees who said, oh no, he treated his girlfriend like garbage and we saw them all the time. And then she comes out and says, oh no, he was a great guy, very friendly, very nice.
Yes, you're right.
It is odd that most of the press, who, as you point out, after the Duke lacrosse case, came right out and gave us chapter and verse on everything you ever wanted to know about every one of the kids on the team in a case that appeared to fit the media narrative. That is, women taken advantage of by a bunch of rich, privileged kids in college. And that one fit. This one doesn't fit, so they don't know what to do with it.
Remember when it was just an amusing meme going around Twitter with Trump beating up an icon of CNN. Wow, what did it take, 24 hours for CNN to find the anonymous Twitterer who had created the meme and threatened to out him?
Yep. And yet in this case, you can't find much of anything about either one of these people, the girlfriend or him. And I don't know, I know that a lot of us will want to jump right to what were his politics? From what I understand, he wasn't registered Republican or Democrat. He was apparently an independent. And his brother, who seems like a pretty normal guy, said, yeah, my brother was kind of apolitical. Well, Ann, you and I both know there are, unlike people like you and me, there are an awful lot of apolitical people in America. They vote, but they're not hanging on every word of Chuck Schumer.
Well, I feel sorry for them.
Well, it will be interesting to see how they handle it from this point out, whether they totally lose interest in it. But I also think they see the possibility that they can help push the Democrats over the top in some kind of new gun control. And I really think that's what it is. We have to always, I'm using this metaphorically, always keep your powder dry. But I got to tell you, when the Democrats controlled the House and the Senate and the presidency after Newtown, after Sandy Hook, little kids being killed. If the Democrats couldn't get through any gun restrictions, I don't think they're going to get it through now, particularly because everything they're talking about wouldn't have changed anything. Nope. And by the way, Ann, that's the same thing I've been telling people for the last week. They said, well, if we let them get anywhere with bump stocks, then it'll be a slippery slope. And I said, look, they couldn't get it done when Obama was in office with a House and Senate.
So I would I'm still waiting for Republicans to do something about the mentally ill. We have seen an increase in these mass shootings since the deinstitutionalization movement in the 70s. Let's
change the civil commitment laws. Ann Coulter, in Trump We Trust. You've got the Lars Law.
Is one of the dumbest humans on planet Earth. She's this comedian who has made her fortune from basically doing the little girl voice and saying super dirty things. That's basically what Sarah Silverman does. Her whole shtick is, I'm going to say super vulgar things, but I'm going to do it in a little girly voice. Isn't it funny? Ha, ha, ha. Well, she also happens to be just an absolute dumbass around politics. And so here's what she tweeted this out the other day. Walking to get coffee, saw these all over a sidewalk in the town I'm in. Is this an attempt at swastikas? Do neo-Nazis not have Google? Okay, and what the picture actually shows, if you can't see it, is it looks like an S with a line through it. Right? That's what it looks like. Okay, so for people who are utterly ignorant, this looks like a swastika. For people who are not utterly ignorant, it looks nothing like a swastika. You know what that actually is? It's a construction mark. It's an actual construction mark. So if you walk around any major city, you will see that mark all over the sidewalk because it's supposed to designate a spot for where there's a pipe or a wire underneath, apparently. Right? That's what it means. But she thinks that people are spray painting swastikas. And then she wonders why people don't take her seriously about politics. It's probably because of that, you stupid idiot. Again, it's hard enough to fight anti-Semitism without people making up instances of anti-Semitism to fight. And I'm sorry, but you walking past a surveying mark on the sidewalk, that's not a sign of neo-Nazis out to get you, Sarah Silverman, you stupid human.